Welcome back. I'm here with Jamie Parker, Olivier Award winner for playing Harry Potter in Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. Well, first of all, congratulations for being a Tony nominee, and we just found out that Harry Potter has won the Broadway.com Audience Choice Award for Favorite New Play.
Brilliant.
So how's
Great
award
news.
season treating you?
Amazing. We're just bouncing from one thing to the next at the moment. And so I'm just along for the ride, to be honest. It's amazing.
So I was lucky enough to see this show in London, and then I saw it again here. And when I saw it in London,
wow.
For me, it was all about the wizardry. Sorry to use that word. It was all about the wizardry.
Sure.
And here, it was the emotions that really hit me.
Okay.
How are audiences responding with which one when they talk to you about it?
I think, well, people do have this sort of visceral reaction to it, and I know that maybe it takes people slightly by surprise, the kind of impact that it does have. I think from the outside looking in, there's a lot of reasons to think that it might just be like a lot of fun, a big thing about wizards, but that's sort of as far as it goes. And they wouldn't necessarily suspect that Jack Thorne's written a proper penetrating play that closes the loop on this far-reaching and easily accessible myth that hundreds of millions of people around the world have been able to project their lives and their struggles onto. So, I mean, that continues. And when you take it into this new territory of not knowing how to be a parent, not knowing how to admit that you're frightened and you don't know what you're doing, not being able to admit that you're making a lot of mistakes and possibly causing damage without meaning to, even though your intentions are all in the right place. And you've got a next generation of children coming up and fighting that and trying to grow up on their own terms. You know, it's opened up some pretty tough conversations for families and done, hopefully started a bit of healing as well.
Was there something that switched over for you that went from being, this is just, popular fantasy fiction to this is really deep?
I don't think you suspect, I didn't suspect in the first book where you end up by the end of the seventh book. Mm-hmm. But I'm still making discoveries now. I'll hear a couple of words together or an echo of a line that's in the play.
You're a scholar when it comes
I'm
to
really not.
It seems like it.
No, I'm really not. But I mean, it's Jack who's the scholar. Mm. I just, as I say, I'm running to catch up, and I'm still noticing these things now, and it just helps. All of it helps. It's a long run. There's a lot of performances, and so every time you make these connections, suddenly it just makes you think about a certain exchange or a certain sequence or just some particular aspect of the storytelling that gives you something new, something fresh to think about, and it takes up room in your concentration, and it doesn't leave room for anything else.
Tell me about meeting J.K. Rowling.
She's great. She's been incredibly generous and just open and collaborative and trusting on this job. When I think about how industrially tightly controlled the whole thing could have been, and how willing she's been to say, look, I'm not a theatre practitioner. I know that I love this medium, and I know that I want the story to be told through this form, but I'm not a director, I'm not a theatre actor, I'm not,
She handed over.
Yeah, she's worked on it with, and that's the hallmark of the whole thing.
Your British colleagues in Harry Potter are mostly making their Broadway debuts, and you're coming back from doing History Boys. Yeah. How does that experience compare to this one?
It's great. I mean,
they were both acclaimed shows, transferring over.
Yeah, and again, we're part of a gang. It's not. I like that. I wouldn't want to be sort of here where it's just all about me doing the me thing over here, because that's a pretty lonely place to be. This town is amazing, but it's great to be doing it as part of a picture that's bigger than you, because it means you go along to the Tonys or these big events and stuff, and you're part of. You're not thinking about yourself too much. You're wrapped up in something bigger, and it becomes fun and it becomes collective, and that's joyful. That's what theatre should be, I think.
In what ways are you like Harry Potter?
Well, I went to boarding school in Scotland when I was just turned 12, and I did, believe it or not, wear little round glasses. And and I hung around in all the same cafes where Joe was writing the books at the time, in Edinburgh, and it was a world of wood paneling on the walls and dorms and houses and entitlement and all sorts of things to deal with. There's a lot that's familiar, and not for nothing do you get these sequences in the play where Harry sets foot on Hogwarts ground again. And surely that's always going to be pretty potent for him. You know, this was his home. This was the only place he ever felt at home. Now he's, you know, career guy, and he's doing his career thing, and he's based at the Ministry, and that's all great and good and well. But that question of whether he ever got past 11, or 17 at the least, suddenly really comes home to roost when he's, you know, with his own son, but standing in the place where he was that age and coming into being, you know, in his own right.
So I'm not a psychologist, and neither are you, but do you think he has PTSD?
I think I would have sympathy with anybody who did make such a diagnosis, and from my limited understanding of it. The miracle for me actually is that, I mean, some people have said that some of his behavior is out of character. They generally speaking, those are people who are talking from having read it without having seen it. And I think the miracle for me, actually, given his upbringing, given the negligence and abuse and loss that he suffered over his most formative years, is not that his behavior is as disordered as it is, but actually that it's not any worse. I mean, that's why it's a juicy play for me. That's why I would bother to spend this much time and creative energy investing in something like this. If I just thought it was some fairy tale about wizards, then who would care? But it's not. It's a far-reaching, vital and archetypal myth.
Okay, well, we have to go, but I have to ask you a very serious question before we do. I know that you're part of the Fizzing Whizbees.
Yes! Go Whizbees.
That's the Broadway Broadway Softball League.
Yeah.
Do you think that you know the rules better for softball or Quidditch?
Neither. I'm not.
They're both a mystery.
I'm not a sports guy. I can more or less throw and catch and hit, sort of. Probably softball. I wouldn't know where to start with Quidditch. That's where we really do part company. I can't fly.
Oh, right. I forgot about that. Well, thanks for coming in, Jamie. It's great to see you.
Thank you.